Francis Beylotte III is a medical researcher, a father, a husband, and a West Ashley resident who's concerned about the future of the city of Charleston's District 9 area where he currently lives. It's one of the reasons why he's running for Charleston City Council. I speak exclusively with Francis for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook.
Frank Beylotte III, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it greatly. Needless to say, you are a parent, a husband, a medical researcher, and a concerned community advocate on behalf of most of the issues going on with the Charleston County School Board. Yeah. Now you're back on Quintin's Close-Ups because actually you're a candidate for the City of Charleston's City Council District 9 seat, which covers what?
That recovers a good portion of West Ashley, but not all of it.
Yes, sir. And, you know, when you talk about that part, I'm sure if you're elected, you'll be representing Avondale, Old Town, you know, parts of Maryville, Ashleyville.
Yeah, exactly. Parts of those communities, almost all of Northbridge, all of Orange Grove, where I live in Lenovar, parts of that, most of that, and parts of other areas. As you know, there's, you know, houses next to each other that aren't even part of the city.
That's exactly right. Donut holes. So, Mr. Frank, let me ask you, in what ways are you engaging with the constituents of District 9 right now?
The same ways I've always engaged with my community. Really, it starts with looking at the issues and challenges that we face, and then looking towards our elected officials. I think, you know, you talk about the school board. I think when you look at, you know, everybody's talking about the presidential race or Senate races. I think when you look at the elected offices that really matter in your community, it's the school board and the city council. And when you look at great challenges we have, as you know, we have a lot of challenges with the school board, something I've been fighting and will never stop fighting for. We have a lot of other challenges in the area, including overdevelopment, poor infrastructure, flooding, and I could go, I'm sure we'll be able to discuss some of those in great detail later. You know, you look to your elected officials to help solve those problems, and it's something I've been working on for a number of years. However, I've found that a lot of our elected officials fail to act or act in a way that's counterproductive. So in doing that, I've heard from our constituents that they're just unsatisfied with the progress that's been made, and I've decided to put my name in there and propose some solutions and some active measures that can solve those solutions. Let me just give you another example. You know, I knocked on doors for Peter Shade in his reelection back in 2019, I think it was. Right. I'm knocking on doors this year, and everybody's saying the same thing. They have the same issues that have gone unresolved for many years. I also knocked on doors for Mayor Tecklenburg in his reelection, including his runoff. And you know, I'm just hearing the same things. You know, after 8 years, after several years in office, the district and our constituents just seem unsatisfied, as though they're neglected and ignored. And I think I have the energy and the compassion and the expertise to help fight for those issues.
So, Frank, let me ask you this, Dan. How do you make District 9 competitive today so that West Ashley as a whole can be better tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, you know, the main issue you need to work on is collaborating with other city council members that represent other parts of West Ashley. As you mentioned earlier, this district doesn't have all of Avondale. So parts of Avondale are represented by other district members. But if you look at West Ashley as a whole, it represents the vast majority of the city of Charleston and its residents. So the question you have to ask yourself, why is the vast majority of the city's residents feeling neglected? And how is that happening? And why does that seem upside down, that the focus is not on the vast majority of the district? So I think you really need to collaborate with those other districts that represent other parts of West Ashley. I can't do it by myself.
So how exactly would you do it on day one if elected?
Well, you know, there's some major issues that need to change immediately. The city's in the middle of a zoning rewrite. And so first thing you need to do is roll up your sleeves and get involved in that zoning rewrite. That's going to have a greatest impact. It's going to have a legacy impact. It's going to ensure that we don't end up in the same place in 4 years, 8 years, or 10 years, where our infrastructure is bursting at the seam, prices are out of control, and water's creeping up to our doorsteps.
Now, as you know, being on Quintin's Close-Ups for many, many years, I like the follow-up questions and specific questions. I know people don't like that, But
Oh, here comes the math questions. Uh-oh.
but the viewers want to get clarity. That's what I was
Sure.
told.
Yeah.
So I got to do my job. But
Do
where
it.
exactly is infrastructure booming in the District 9 area?
It's booming. Did you say
Yeah.
infrastructure?
Well, let me ask you, how many infrastructure projects are there currently in District 9?
Uh, there's not really. Let me think. For example, there's ones right outside the district. A big one is the West Ashley pedestrian bike bridge,
Right.
which I fully support, and others have to do with flooding. There's the Forest Acres drainage project that's just on the edge of our district. That's a great flooding project that's using the natural flow of water to move water away from places that are dangerous. Some infrastructure projects in West Ashley District 9 that I'd like to see would be the improvement, obviously, of the suicide merge. I think the name itself speaks for the problem. Another thing that really bothers me, and this is not something that the city council can do themselves, but the members should be advocating for change, is a new North Bridge. The North Bridge is not pedestrian friendly. It's dangerous. It's unattractive. And it sets a low standard when you enter our community to go over that bridge. And every time I go over it and I see someone walking their bike or walking down the middle, I really have to say a little prayer to make sure they make it home alive. And that's just wrong.
How would you, as a city council member, work with the Charleston County government to make sure there is actual infrastructure for those pedestrians there?
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to have to work with the county government, the federal government, the state government. You're going to have to listen to experts. You're going to have to listen to engineers, designers, and people that know what needs to be done, whether or not we should add to the bridge or build another bridge entirely. But I think we need to really reach out and get support from the federal government to help with a project that large. But I do think it's important and it's a priority for me.
And what study would be ideal for the North Bridge right now?
What study?
Yes, sir.
In my opinion, it needs to be completely replaced. And I think it needs to be replaced with a design that's similar to the Ravenel Bridge, that has a complete access for bikes, people walking. It's attractive. If you drive over that bridge during sunset, it's a beautiful place to drive over. It's a beautiful place people would walk up and down it. Another thing too is the folks that live on the other side of that bridge, they live in a food desert. So a lot of those folks you're seeing coming over, walking dangerously across that bridge, are just coming to buy food, or maybe they work at Publix. So it's just, I'm on a tangent, but how am I going to get it done? I think the federal government is the key source to get that started, just like it was with the West Ashley pedestrian bridge, and that's where I would start my advocacy efforts. And I think there's enough members on council right now that would support that and collaborate to move that forward.
And how many residents right now would support that as well?
Everyone I've talked to supports it. There's signs that folks have in their front yard that say "Better North Bridge." I support a Better North Bridge. There's a public advocacy program. I think that Charleston Moves is producing that. I'm not sure. I don't want to misspeak. But there's widespread support in our community for that to change.
And when you go to that suicide merge where I was just a week ago, what exact study did you want the city to do on that right now?
Well, again, one of the things I'd like to say is I don't think it's the role of a city council person to micromanage municipal government. I think it's our job to engage with our constituents and make sure their voices are heard. I think when you look at the design of things, especially in terms of traffic flow, you need to rely on experts and engineers. And so I have not seen a plan yet that I think is ideal for that. The way that's designed is going to be contingent on what's happening at Sumar, of course. So all of the things need to come together, but enough is enough already. It can't stay like it is.
Let me take you right there. The Sumar Street redevelopment, as you know, it's in Northbridge.
How did I have a feeling we were going to talk about that?
It's part of the campaign, of course. But Charlestown Gateway, it's a Charlestown Gateway, I should say, which is the site of a 2.5-acre parcel of land located at the central entrance point of West Ashley. The site was once home, as you know, to Piggly Wiggly, and after a 5-year period of vacancy, the city purchased the property on August 8, 2017 for a price tag of $3 million. The Piggly Wiggly structure was demolished in May of 2018, leaving the property, as you know, in its present state. A lot has ripe for that redevelopment and revitalization. And since the city's acquisition of that property, city and county officials have collaborated with community members and civil engineers to envision different possibilities for that space. So when you look at that space right now, what is the price tag for this redevelopment?
Well, I don't know what the proposal. I don't know what the final proposal is right now. I know there were proposals that came out of the West Ashley Revitalization Committee. I did support what they put forward, but yeah, I mean these things. Just look at the West Ashley pedestrian bridge. Yeah, the cost of that balloon. But these are investments we need to make in our community, much needed investments, overdue investments. So yeah, it's going to cost money, but I can't tell you exactly how much right now, but it's more about, are we going to invest in our community or not? Because what we have right now is lack of investment. And if you want to continue what we have now, then we can talk about whether or not you want to invest in the community. I think it's, I think the arguments against it costing too much are straw arguments. They're arguments that they would like something else to happen. I think they would like private. This can be completely privatized. I think that's part of the argument I hear.
Well, what public-private partnership would you want for the Sumar Street redevelopment?
Again, I support what came out of the West Ashley Revitalization Committee, and I do know there was some controversy around the parking garage that was underground. I do support that. I think that's possible. I think if we can build tunnels under the Chesapeake Bay, I think we can build parking garages that can protect cars from water leaking in. Of course, if we have a massive storm surge event, we can remove all the cars and use that to hold water temporarily. So I do trust in engineering.
Now, if and when this garage is built, hypothetically speaking right now, how much money would the city need to keep that building intact and actually keep it from cracking and water actually coming in, Francis?
Well, I think that's going to be necessary with the initial design coming right out of the gate. And I don't know the exact numbers that we would need to maintain that and stop it from leaking. I don't know those exact numbers right now. You got me on that one.
No, in your mind, how do you think an underground garage will actually be safe for residents in that area and visitors?
Well, you're just parking your car while you're there, so nobody's going to leave their car there the whole time, as far as I know, unless they're developing residential areas. But, I spent a lot of time traveling. I've seen underground parking garages in Miami. I've seen them in Seattle near large bodies of water, and I trust in our ability to design and engineer things that are safe. In fact, even in Washington, D.C., they have large underground parking garages right next to the Potomac. So there's ways to do that safely protects the infrastructure from leaking and cracking like that. But at the same time, we're on an old earthquake fault line, so we got to be careful about doing that. So yeah.
And I know recently, and I know, yeah, no worries. And I know in the next couple of, in the past couple of months, that is, Charleston City Council, actually, if I can get back to that, it said, back then, they reviewed 3 different proposals for the Sumar Street, which has been vacant since 2018 when the old Piggly Wiggly was demolished. Council voted 6-6 on option 1 before deferring the project to Community Development Committee. So if you were to choose option 1, what would that ideal elevation be?
Oh, I rely on experts to provide elevation estimates that are necessary based on the flooding patterns and the predicting flooding patterns over the next few years. I think the key that we need to think about, though, is building everything moving forward with the adaptive capacity to manage the the rise in water and the more flooding events that we're seeing now. We used to have a couple a year. Now we have a couple a month.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Dan. What integrated planning and urban landscape design for this project would actually fix potential flooding in the area?
I don't know. I don't think it would do that. No, I don't think it would do that. It's just going to be something that's nice for the community. Something that we can be proud of as you enter our community, coming over North Bridge, hopefully a new beautiful North Bridge with people walking on the pedestrian side, looking at the sunset, arriving into West Ashley and saying, wow, this is a beautiful place. I'm on my way to downtown Charleston, another beautiful place. Right now, what you see is an old dilapidated bridge with some poor person struggling to get over there and not die. And then you arrive at the suicide merge and you see a dumpster and some concrete. And it's just, it's not. There was a question at the mayor's forum about what kind of sign you'd like to have coming into West Ashley. I don't think you need a sign as much as you need a developed infrastructure that says you're here. Like you don't need a sign that says "Welcome to West Ashley." Now look at the dumpster. You need a sign that says "Welcome to West Ashley." Look at this beautiful multi-use project that we have, that we share with our community, and we also allow entrepreneurs to make money out of businesses there. The fact that the League of Women Voters couldn't even find a place to hold our forum says a lot about what's missing in our community.
So, and you talk about those businesses. So how many businesses are currently in District 9, particularly in that area near the Sumar Street Redevelopment?
Currently, right now, I don't know the exact number. There's some positive growth in that area. There's businesses that I'm happy to see come. When the grocery store on the other side, I think it was a Food Line, when that closed, many of us in the community advocated for a Trader Joe's grocery store to go in there. But instead, we got an assault weapons superstore. And I think that just goes to show that you need to listen more to your community. You need to listen to your constituents and advocate for the businesses to come in that they want.
What businesses would be ideal for your area right now?
I mentioned already Trader Joe's.
Right.
I'd like to see more things that are teen-oriented, kid-oriented. I'd like to see access to those things. We've got part of the reason I live in the area, Quintin, is I'm just down the street from Target. I'm just down the street from TJ Maxx. I'm down the street from several grocery stores.
Sure.
Down the street from Citadel Mall, the best movie theater in the area. And my kids, want to be able to go. I have teenage kids, and they want to ride their bike to the movie theater, and they can't do it right now, even though it's just down the road. They can't do it. So when you talk about the businesses we have, I think we already have a lot of great businesses. What my priority is increasing alternative access to those businesses. Access that's not centered around automobiles. Access that means there's no reason I couldn't walk to the movies. It's not that far, but I'm not going to walk through ditches and dirt on the side of the road and get run over. So we need to change how we access the businesses so that we're more connected with one another.
I know all about that, walking down Sam Rittenberg for work for, the past couple of months. So I know all about that. But where exactly do sidewalks need to be placed in your district right now?
Well, you mentioned Sam Rittenberg. I think there's plenty of space to add a walking bike path along Sam Rittenberg, going all the way from Orange Grove area to Citadel Mall. That's a priority right there. Now, there's some sidewalks here and there, but it's a mismatch of, they go and they disappear, and some of the crosswalks are actually kind of dangerous. So another thing to think about, too, is that, one of the keystone areas of our district is the intersection of 61 and Sam Rittenberg. For a while, 3 out of 4 of those corners were dilapidated, empty buildings. Now they're building another. Now they're building another Parker's gas station on one corner. Okay. But that old Burger King's been sitting there for years, and it's just it's an eyesore. It's awful. So I think a city council person can't say go develop this there now, but they can advocate and show the leadership to make sure businesses are interested and sort of grease the wheels to make that kind of stuff happen, because it doesn't reflect positively on the beautiful part of our community that all these kind of ugly, dilapidated buildings have been sitting around for so many years.
What kind of redevelopment would be ideal for that particular corridor?
Oh, you mean there at the 61 and?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'd be interested in hearing ways to change that, but right now I'd just like to see a thriving, positive business at the corner where that Burger King is.
If I'm not mistaken, Francis, I think one of those banks are coming there, but I'm gonna double check with that and get back to you on that as well.
Oh, at the Burger King?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe so. And Parker's put up a sign that they're coming there, and I don't know what they're doing over by the Skittles and Baskin Robbins, but maybe some things that I don't know about. That's also the role of a city council member, is to communicate those things to the community and make sure we know, because what we see is what we see. And they can change how we interpret what we see by communicating better. And I'd like to see that improve, and I've worked very hard on communicating better with the constituents.
So this bank is coming there along with Parker's Kitchen. And like we said, we don't know what's going to happen over at Castell right across the street. But what ideal multi-use pass would be ideal for that area?
some of the things I've seen in other communities, and even in Mount Pleasant, for example, are these multi-use developments, which has a combination of retail and combination of retail and residential in the same space. Kind of the old sort of, there's a shop on the bottom and people live on the top. I'd like to see more of that. Seems like an efficient use of space, and I know a few folks that live in those kind of areas, and it's nice to be able to walk downstairs and get a coffee or go eat at a restaurant and then walk right back up to your house.
Where exactly in District 9 could that be a reality?
Yeah. Here's the thing about development in District 9. Okay. We've got a lot of things just sitting there. We've got a lot of pavement that's not used. This is a big problem with flooding, because water does not soak into pavement. Where I call it the old Chuck E. Cheese, where the old Chuck E. Cheese used to be. I think too many of those are empty, and maybe we could get something just replaced in there. Now, I like El Molina. I don't want El Molina to go. They have the best tacos in Charleston. But some of those areas we might need to rethink if they just need to be changed and replaced completely. And we'd like to see what some creative folks have to say about that.
And when you look at that corridor right there with Chuck E. Cheese is, which is Ashley Hall and, Sam Rittenberg, what else could be ideal for that area to revitalize it?
I mean, everything. I mean, it's wide open right there. That area is in need of a facelift. Let's just put it that way. No offense to the businesses that are there, but there's a way to improve and change that I think is significant, and the possibilities are limitless, to be honest with you. I don't know who owns those properties, so I don't want to sit here and say this is what you need to do with your property. But I think when I talk to residents, they find that whole strip to be kind of an eyesore and a missed opportunity to have a lot of thriving businesses right there in the middle of our community. One of the things you see in Citadel Mall, for example, Citadel Mall was on its last leg, but you get an anchor store like Target in there, and it helps revise it. I think I mentioned Trader Joe's. Obviously, I like Trader Joe's, if you can't tell, and I'm not being paid by Trader Joe's to do this. But if you get a store like Trader Joe's, and again, you go over to Trader Joe's in Mount Pleasant, it's so busy you can't even park.
Right.
And so if you get an anchor store like this in one of these areas that are sort of dilapidated and run down, it starts the revitalization itself, because people start coming there and another business will be next to that, and it just goes from there. So I don't think, city council needs to create a master plan for what happens on that strip, but I do think we need to actively encourage some businesses that are missing in West Ashley to take up space in these empty areas and go from there.
So what incentives would you all bring to those particular businesses if they want to come to that district?
To be perfectly honest with you, I think the main incentives is we have residents who want to spend money. We have hardworking residents who are ready to spend money. And if you come there, I think you'll see that.
You'll see that. Well, unfortunately, I'm running out of time because I have to get over to my second job.
Okay, good. Well, it's nice talking to you. Let me just follow up and say, the reason I'm running is because as a resident, I'm tired of being forced to choose between the status quo and whatever right-wing or left-wing pact is coming out of nowhere. So right now we've got Moms for Liberty causing all this mess in our community, and we've got folks saying, well, you've got to push the status quo forward to stop Moms for Liberty. I'm tired of having to make a choice between the status quo and some extremist group. So I'm offering a true progressive way forward for the district.
And I want to get the other side of the story. Those people with Moms for Liberty, I would love to get them on Quintin's close-ups to get their side of the story on this. But for now, Frank Beylotte III, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Take care. Do I get a mug yet?